Again, for chat, just make sure you're in all panelists and attendees. As people are continuing to join, we'll go ahead and get started, right? We don't want to waste any time. So thank you all for joining us this afternoon or this morning. I saw you earlier. My name is Kim Gooch. I'm the Everglades Literacy Program Coordinator in Orange County for the Everglades Foundation. And today I'm introducing you to Dr. Timothy Hawthorne. So Dr. Timothy Hawthorne is an Associate Professor of Geographic Information Systems, or GIS, in the Department of Sociology at the University of Central Florida in Orlando, also known as UCF. He's the founder of Citizen Science, and their goal is to connect scientists and society through the use of geospatial technologies to make science more accessible and responsive to community concerns. So today we're going to talk all about their Maps, Apps, and Drones tour, the Mobile STEAM Research and Education Lab, the GeoBus, and how we can bring Citizen Science GIS to the virtual classroom. We'll increase our knowledge of why GIS is so important to environmental education and how to use citizen science to map things like sea level rise, climate change, watersheds in Florida coastal communities, and how we connect classrooms to data mapping and the environment over time. So we'll go ahead and hand it over. Of course, if you have questions, please put them in the chat, panelists and attendees, and we'll save some time after the presentation for your chat. So take it away. Thank you.
All righty. Thank you so much, Kim. And thanks to all of you. I see we have about 80 participants in the session. That's such a great number. I appreciate that you took the time today to learn a little bit more about what we do and hopefully how we can help you as you navigate the new school year. I know many of you are preparing for lots of new approaches to teaching this fall. So kudos to all of you. You obviously are heroes in working with kids. I'm so excited to get to talk with all of you today. So today what I hope to do, as Kim mentioned, is talk to you a little bit about how we utilize mapping technologies with K-12 teachers and also with K-12 students. But first I wanted to share a little bit about kind of why we do this as a research organization here at the University of Central Florida. So that's going to take me first to a discussion of the golden rule. That's right, the golden rule that we all know and love. Do unto others as you would have others do unto you. So when we think about the golden rule, we think about things like kindness, we think about empathy, we think about hope, we think about compassion. These principles are the things that guided the amazing teachers that inspired each of us on this call today, and also probably inspires the students that you have in your classrooms today as well, as we all work together to help people on their life's journeys. But you know what? Sometimes when we grow up, sometimes when we get busy with the day-to-day and the planning, we forget about the important lessons of the golden rule. So in the next few minutes, what I'd like to do is I'd like to share with you some of the ways in which we utilize the principles of the golden rule to inspire the next generation of scientists in the K-12 classroom and also in the broader higher education community as well, using maps, apps, and drones. And I want to share with you how you, as a teacher here in Florida and around the Southeast, can come more involved with our free, yes, free resources that we have available from our Citizen Science GIS team at UCF. So let's go ahead and get started. The first thing I'd like you to do before we get into the meat and bones of this talk is I'd like you to think for a moment about the amazing teachers that inspired you to become educators here in Florida, the ones that inspired us to think about the golden rule. This is your chance to go back in time for a moment. I would like you to think about an impactful moment that you had growing up with a K-12 educator. Maybe it's a teacher that pushed you when you didn't even know you needed a push. Maybe it's a teacher who encouraged you, who built your confidence in things like fractions and long divisions in math class. Maybe it's a teacher that helped you learn how to treat others with respect and to respect yourself through the golden rule. So what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to take 10 seconds to close your eyes and think about that one teacher that really helped you along your path. I'll keep the time. 3, 2, 1. All right, now I'd like to have everyone open your eyes, please. And just so you know, if any of you grew up watching Mr. Rogers, I kind of borrowed this idea from him. So if you open your eyes, I may not be in the room with you, but I can certainly bet that many of you are smiling, thinking back on those fond memories of those K through 12 teachers. I know for me, it brought back a lot of memories when I've done this exercise in the past. So that's what this presentation is about. It's about the golden rule. So again, as I mentioned, I'm a professor of Geographic Information Systems at the University of Central Florida. The kids I work with in the US and also in Belize down in Central America, they also call me Dr. Drone. Because of these kids, I am hopeful. I'm optimistic. They make me believe that the golden rule can drive science, and it can be a part of what we do as we try to bridge the gap between science, education, and society. As Kim mentioned in the introduction, I'm the founder of an internationally recognized organization called Citizen Science GIS here housed at UCF. We are a group that uses maps, apps, and drones to engage community scholars, educators, and youth in the work that we do as researchers and as educators. Some of the work that we do takes us all around the globe. Oops, sorry. One of the examples of some of the work we do here in Florida in the Indian River Lagoon, just around New Smyrna Beach, where we study coastal restoration sites and the idea of what's known as sense of place, or how emotional attachment and connections connects people to nature and society. So in that work, what we try to do is understand how sense of place or emotions can be mapped and how that can inform future restoration in the lagoon here along the Atlantic coast of Florida. Another project takes us to the west coast of the United States. Oops, sorry. Takes us to the west coast of the United States from San Diego all the way up to northern Alaska, where we work with researchers at the Smithsonian to map eelgrass habitat sites using drones and geographic information systems with our friends at the Smithsonian. And finally, some of our work takes us to Central America down in a country called Belize, where we use drones and spatial storytelling, a combination of interviews and mapping with community members to help understand climate change and the adaptations that communities are making to understand these changes in their environments. So all of this work is work that involves mapping and drones, and I'll talk about their importance in a moment. But what I'm most proud about in this work that we do with interdisciplinary teams, what I'm most proud about is the application of the golden rule and the emphasis on recognizing that everyday extraordinary citizens in communities, including teachers and children, can work together to inform science. Like many of you on this Zoom call, we at Citizen Science GIS at UCF believe in the power of science to improve society, to share stories, and enhance our knowledge of the world around us. And most importantly to us, we believe in the power of mapping technologies and their ability to provide visual solutions to problem solving in a collaborative fashion to support scientific endeavors. So that leads me to my big question for all of you. What unites each of us as a Florida educator community? And I'm happy if you'd love to add that into the chat as we continue. That would be wonderful to hear some of your ideas. But for me, you might guess what I'm about to say. For me, what I believe connects us as educators is our ability to recognize that education is a force to enhance and improve society, and it's influenced by the golden rule, this ability to connect and to have empathy and compassion and understanding in collaborative atmospheres. So we believe that education can aid humanity, and we believe in that golden rule. So as I mentioned, the golden rule drives everything we do at Citizen Science GIS at UCF. When we begin work in a new community or a new environment, we go in believing that the folks living in those communities, they know the most about their communities, their environmental and social challenges and opportunities. That's right, you don't often hear academics saying they're not experts, but we believe that community members are the experts. We are there to share their stories and illuminate their stories. When we work with communities around the globe, we ask our research collaborators how our work with them through our partnerships can have the most impact in their communities. And the answers actually might surprise you. Overwhelmingly, it doesn't come back to fancy technology like drones and mapping applications or our beautiful imagery and some of the photography that you see in this conversation. Certainly those things are priorities to the communities in which we work, but the number one answer that we hear in probably 90% of the communities in which we work is that every single community in these partnerships the thing they think can have the biggest impact is working with their youth. And that is something that I think is pretty universal across the research projects that I just mentioned a few moments ago. Our community partners inevitably ask us to invest in the future of their community by empowering youth to learn these new mapping technologies and the scientific tools to help with the future sustainability of the communities in which we work. So our partners in the US, our partners in Belize and in Central America, they want their children to learn science. You know this as educators. And they want these new approaches to understand how to save their communities and improve environmental and social conditions. So in response to these communities we work with, and by applying the golden rule, our work contains a huge educational component for K through 12, as Kim alluded to in the introduction. So that leads me to my next 3 questions that I'd like you all to think about. And please feel free to add these to the chat as you think more about what's to come in the next few slides. Firstly, what can mapping technologies offer to you as K through 12 teachers in your classrooms? I recognize that pedagogically, you are always thinking about the ways in which you can enhance your learning for your students. And I think for me, when I think about mapping technologies and when I work with K through 12 teachers, 3 things come up. First and foremost is these technologies are in demand. They are part of the US Department of Labor's high growth industry fields, which is a very big deal. Secondly, they're very much connected to principles of STEAM learning across science, technology, engineering, arts, and math. Thirdly, I think another important thing, I recognize all of you are bound by, in many cases, the guidelines of the state education department and also the national education standards as well. So all of our lessons that you'll hear about today and others that we have on our websites and social media, they all connect back to Florida educational content standards and also next generation science standards as well. The third part about why I think mapping technologies can be useful to your classrooms is they're interactive and, dare I say, they're fun. They're wonderful learning experiences for your students. And I think one of the real exciting parts of what we can offer is not only myself and other faculty, but being able to have your students connect with UCF students from communities all across Florida and the world that can share about their journey through college, to college, and students can have another mentoring opportunity as well. So that's a little bit about why I think mapping technologies hopefully matter to you, and I'd love to hear some of your thoughts in the chat as well. Now, you still might not be convinced. Mapping may not be the way to go, but I'm here to tell you, I'd like you to think about this. So in a show of virtual hands, I can't see you, but I'm sure you're raising your hands here, I'd like you to think about the icons on this screen. How many of you have ever downloaded one of these apps on your phone or your tablet? Now keep your hands up if you remember downloading this app and then asking a question about, do you allow the app to access your location? If your hands are still up, that means you are mappers. All of the technologies behind the scenes of these apps are using location-based services, which is a form of mapping technologies and geographic information systems. So when we work with kids in the schools, we remind them that they're using these apps every single day and they are mappers, whether they recognize it or not. That's a powerful learning moment for all of them as well. One of the things that I think also is important to recognize here is that drones are an additionally rampant technology and in-demand technology. So I'd ask you to think about this question. When you think about drone technologies, what are the first 2 or 3 things that you might think about when I say the term drone? I bet some of the things are military uses, policing, security, privacy concerns, right? Those are very much relevant to the conversation about drones, but they also are incredibly powerful and relatively affordable tools for technology, for science and exploration as well. So in this example here, I'm going to take you back to Belize, and you can see on the left-hand side, this is the power of drone imagery. On the left, we have a satellite imagery. On the right, we have a drone imagery shot by our team and our team of citizen scientists down in Belize. And right here, this to me, this image really summarizes really briefly one of the reasons why drone imagery is so important to K through 12 education and to showing kids how science matters. In the satellite imagery on the left, you can see we have coarse resolution. We also have some clouds in the eastern half of the image, and you can't really even see the entire island, right? But on the right-hand side in the drone imagery, we have the ability to fly at a lower elevation, underneath the clouds, and we're able to provide resolution that's sub-meter. In many cases, 3 to 5 centimeter accuracy resolution to understand coastal communities. So as Mercedes just said, that's a big difference. You're absolutely right, Mercedes. So now that you understand some of the advantages of drone imageries for science, now I'd like to have us think a little bit about some of the ways in which we engage with these mapping and drone technologies in the classroom. So it leads me to my next set of questions. What mapping ideas do each of you have that we can help with in your classroom? And I'll stimulate some ideas here in a moment as well. Secondly, we all recognize we're living in a COVID-19 world. You're all either doing some form of face-to-face, blended, or fully remote model. So the question is, how can we as a UCF community come to your classrooms virtually in this new school year? And how might we be able to be value added to your K through 12 classrooms to inspire your students in a COVID-19 world? Right? Like many of you, we're not giving up on this school year just because it's going to be different. We are energized by the fact that we're going to be working with our children again and the youth across Florida. So we'd love to think about ways in which we can add value in a virtual world with all of you as well. So with that, I'd like to take you to some of the ways in which that we have engaged with kids and teachers across Central Florida and across the world in the last few years. Since 2016, we have led what we call the Maps, Apps, and Drones Tour. It's a K through 12 educational outreach program that visits schools across Florida and also in Belize. It involves community centers, YMCAs, and libraries as well in the summer. These free school and community events have provided over 9,500 youth, families, and teachers in just 2.5 short years in hands-on interactive experiences with these mapping technologies that I talked about a little bit before. And like many of you, back in March during COVID-19, we pivoted from our in-person meetings to a more virtual remote learning space where we provided examples of mapping activities through our websites and social media channels that could be used by students at home. So on the tour, historically, students and teachers have been able to fly mini drones, as you see in the example on the left image, where kids are using Parrot Mambo mini drones, which are affordable $50 mini drones, and they're flying over a coastal community model that they made in their art class, where they're doing basically a pre and post disaster flight, taking photography of this image. And it's just a fascinating example of the combination of art and science. On the upper right image, you see students using a freely available mapping application that we have through our Esri ArcGIS online mapping software package, is looking at sustainability in communities and near their schools. So we're asking students to map sustainable features on their campus, things like recycling bins, composting bins, rain barrels, gardens, those types of things in their schools and their communities. And they're adding those to our interactive mapping applications as well. We also have students working with virtual and augmented reality as well, transporting them into our virtual field sites through our work in Belize, some of the partner work we do in Australia, and also our work on the west coast of the US and here in Florida as well. So augmented reality is another component of this. We have our augmented reality sets available for free rental to the classrooms as well. So students are experiencing these new landscapes and understanding these mapping technologies in a very interactive way. And as I mentioned, like many of you, this past March, we moved most of our work completely remote as well to continue some of these educational activities. So here in the links, and we'll share these links afterwards as well in a more clean and more accessible format. We provide a variety of free mapping resources. I saw some of the questions come up about the software and hardware platforms. We utilize exclusively Esri's ArcGIS Online, which is a free educational bundle that is available to K through 12 educators for free from Esri, the world's leader in GIS. And in the above map, the maps are not just for geography class link. That link includes a series of what are called geo-inquiry lessons that are based on K through 12 educational content standards that provide mapping assignments and example activities that are available to students as well. We as a group can't take credit for those. Those are from another organization, but they have been really great examples that we have used in some of our maps, apps, and drones tour events. Here on the top left image, we have an example of just one quick way that families were able to engage in some mapping activities at home to understand basic mapping elements in map design. So we had students do a zoo mapping activity just using crayons and paper, where they learned about legends, scale bars, north arrows, and mapped areas as well. The second example off to the right, many of you I know are math teachers and science teachers. We teach students about latitude and longitude graphing and gridding activities using one of our Earth Grid activities, where we ask students to place a couple of sites in a grid using latitude and longitude coordinates as well. So all of these are activities that are available, and as I'm seeing in the chat, we'll definitely share these afterwards as well. So that's some of the ways in which we have both the in-person and the virtual maps, apps, and drones tour. I know many of you, like today, are interested in professional development to enhance your already strong educational training. And so this is something we've been doing for the last 4 or 5 years here in Florida, where we engage in free teacher workshops for professional development learning opportunities. Every November during Geography Awareness Week and during GIS Day in mid-November, right before Thanksgiving, we have a free teacher workshop called the Citizen Science GIS Teacher Academy. Part of this workshop, everything is completely free, but in addition to that, teachers actually receive one of our Parrot Mambo mini drones to keep for their classrooms, and additional information along with those mini drones as well to inspire kids and have an accompanying lesson plan as well. So we've probably worked with about 100 or so teachers in those sessions. Most of the sessions are between 20 to 30 teachers. We'll be having another one in November 14th. It will be fully virtual due to COVID-19. And this link here will take you to the sign up for that if you're interested. And again, we'll share many of these links after the presentation as well. So that's just another way that we engage our teachers in the work that we do. The final way in which we're able to engage teachers in some of the work is that one of the things that always comes out of these types of conversations and presentations is, wow, your imagery is incredible. Can I come along as a teacher for your fieldwork? And for many years we said, yes, if we ever figure out a way to fund you. And I am very pleased to let you know in the last year we have been generously funded by the United States National Science Foundation through federal tax dollars and funding to allow teachers to join us in some of our field work. So that eelgrass monitoring project that I mentioned with the Smithsonian along the Pacific coast from California to Alaska, pending COVID-19 travel restrictions improving next summer, we will have an opportunity to include a handful of K through 12 teachers in fully funded paid research experiences to join our team and to join Smithsonian scientists as well. That will include a stipend, a really big drone technology package to keep for your school and your classroom, all your travel expenses covered, and also conference and workshop travel after the summer experience to present the work collaboratively at educational conferences as well. So it's just a really fascinating way to become a part of our scientific team and also become very much involved with our really great friends at the Smithsonian that work with us as well. So the link there is available to look at the application. Applications will be due later this year, but I wanted to share that with all of you today. The next way, many of you I know are keen on international travel after COVID-19, of course. And so hopefully next summer we will continue another year of our work in Belize, if not next summer, the summer after. But we also have funding from the National Science Foundation to expand that work with a new grant to also include K through 12 teachers in the work we do down in Central America. So much like the previous example, we have a handful of teachers that will be able to apply and potentially join us for a fully funded 7-week research experiences, all travel expenses paid, and then also similar academic conference workshop support. So it's a great opportunity to work with us internationally and see how we do this work as citizen scientists with community members, and hopefully use both experiences to enhance what you do in the classroom and bring some of the international education things that we do into your classroom and some of that field data as well. So like the other example, these applications open this September. They'll be due sometime around February, and so you can learn more about the application from last year and how it'll work this year on this link as well. Again, we'll share all of these links after the presentation. So those are some of the current ways in which we are supporting K through 12 teachers and educators. The final way is our big plan. We have a big vision, as referenced here by our very small Lego model. Some of you may have heard of this in different email blasts or from Kim and some others at the Everglades. We are working to develop the nation's first GeoBus here at the University of Central Florida. The nation's first, right here in Florida, to serve Florida youth and kids. We're so excited about this. Um, and one of the ways in which we've kind of been thinking about this is we have this Maps, Apps, and Drones tour. It excites kids, it gets them interested and interactive, but it's not enough to us. We want to go bigger. So we think about, whoops, sorry. We think about the ways in which we can take our education ideas and make them bigger, make them more memorable, right? Because there's memorable experiences we all had from our K through 12 days. I think of when the DARE police car came to campus, or when the fire trucks came to campus, or we went to a museum, right? All of these things are memorable learning experiences. So we want to create the GeoBus to create this massive, memorable learning experience. So what we've done is with our friends here, local bus company Lynx. Lynx has donated a retired city bus. We have a 40-foot city bus that we have been patiently and working on together with community partners to outfit as a learning lab that will visit K through 12 classrooms, school districts, community centers, and libraries throughout the entire state of Florida as well, once we get past COVID-19 social distancing as well. So this is what the bus looks like, right? Not really that exciting, right? It's a year-old traditional city bus. But think what might happen when we come together with educational partners and industry partners that use mapping technologies. Think about how deeply impactful it can be to transform this space, this interior of a bus, into a mobile science classroom that comes to schools. And I'm talking specifically to everyone, I hope, can enjoy the GeoBus, but I'm specifically talking to those of you that are working in under-resourced schools that maybe don't have the newest, latest technology. This is an example of the ways in which we can bring that technology to day or week-long visits to your school to have your children experience some of these technologies that we work with. So this is the interior of our GeoBus, right? Nothing too cool just yet, but wait until you see our plans here in a moment. This is what we have going on now. We are in the process of transforming our STEAM education vehicle, this GeoBus, with our friends. Here you have our friends at 15 Light Years, which is a local solar company that provides solar panels. They have added 12 solar panels on the roof of this bus to create a fully solar-powered interior lab space. So when we're parking at schools, we don't need to leave the diesel engine on, but instead we're going to be harnessing the power of the sun to harness the power of our lab. Right now, the bus has been sitting at an additional local partner called Green Rhino that is installing an inverter and alternative energy system that will allow us to power those solar panels and to power all of the technology in the bus. I can't tell you how excited we are. I see some of the excited comments in here as well. So we're taking this reclaimed city bus through these different partnerships, and we're working together to bring this big, huge STEAM educational interactive experience to the kids and the teachers around Florida as well. So as we sort of hit the pause on our in-person meetings, with COVID-19, this actually gives us an opportunity to really delve deep into the build out of the interior. So over the next few months, as we're sitting doing our virtual work rather than our in-person work, we're going to be working with a local bus design company to outfit the inside with a giant interactive geovisualization touch wall, an augmented reality sandbox, a virtual reality set of stations, and a lot of different mapping activities as well. So we'll be able to take that Maps, Apps, and Drones tour and bring it into the GeoBus experience. So our hope is to launch this in the 21-22 school year, assuming COVID-19 is a little bit more manageable at that point as well. And to the question that was just brought up in the chat, GeoBus will be visiting all schools across Florida to cultivate a geospatial mindset in school children around the state. There will be a fee for this. We're not quite sure of what the fee is going to be. However, we do have several partners and foundations that are working with us once the bus is finished to provide fee waivers especially for Title I or high need school districts as well, that will either eliminate or lessen the cost. And what we're thinking right now is somewhere in the model, it's going to be somewhere between $2 to $5 a student. But again, with some of the foundation support that we're working with, we're confident we're going to be able to lower or eliminate that price for many schools as well. So we're very excited to offer this first across the entire state of Florida. And then after that, we own the trademark now, as of about 6 months ago, to create a network of buses across the entire state, entire country. And so what we're planning to do is eventually in the next 10 years is to develop 10 to 15 additional GeoBuses to support collaborations with partners in other states. We actually have one that is in initial stages of development with us in Michigan, and also another one that some folks in California have expressed interest in building as well. So we'll kind of see where things go as we go. So that's a lot of me rambling about all the cool stuff we have going on. I'm getting to the end here. I have 2 slides left. So I want to bring this all back to the beginning, right? You saw all the cool bells and whistles, the great mapping technologies we have available, but I want to take it back to that moment I began with and the idea of the golden rule. So my friends, as we close out our time together in my formal remarks, I'd like you to think back to that amazing teacher that you thought about for that 10 seconds at the beginning, that person that inspired you to become the teacher that you are today. I want you to remember that I know you know this, but I just want to remind you, you are now the ones doing that same inspiring to the kids that you work with in your classrooms. I know how challenging everything is right now for all of us as we think about blended modes of learning, remote learning, and face-to-face. That's a lot to tackle, but I hope that we all remember that we are here to inspire youth together. And that is what I think I love so much about the Florida educator community. So each of you following along in this presentation, please remember that you, your neighbor, your family, your superintendent, your principal, all of us, we are formal and informal educators that make up the Florida educator community. We're inspiring that next generation to love science, just like those teachers inspired you to become educators that you are today. So as we shift our routines and we think about what the 2021 school year might look like, just know that we at Citizen Science GIS at UCF, we are here to work with you in this new virtual environment. We're here to connect with you with our freely available resources, our virtual maps, apps, and drones tour, our teacher workshops, and also with our hopefully eventually our summer fieldwork experiences. So these are just some of the ways that we can work with all of you. But as I close things now, what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to think back to that teacher from earlier, that 10-second thought. That teacher that you thought of earlier, think how proud he or she would be of the educator that you are today. I want to thank you for your time. I want to thank you for what you do. And I want to thank you for what you do to inspire the children you work with to become the future leaders of our society as they apply and live out the golden rule in everything that they do. So thank you very much for your time. And I'm very happy now to address some of the questions that came up in the chat with both Kimberly and Keely helping me with all of that as well. So thank you very much.
Wow. Thank you, Tim. That was incredible. I know that a lot of the teachers really appreciate all of the great things that you mentioned, all of the links that we are going to share, all the opportunities. I know we're running out of time, but I think just some really quick questions that we had was kind of looking at the next school year and whether or not we're in the classroom or out of the classroom, right, online. Are you still renting the goggles during COVID, or is that something that's on pause?
Yes, so our technology, we haven't quite figured out the logistics of it yet, but we are absolutely open to creating or having our STEAM education kits available. Certainly we would expect that cleaning procedures and those sorts of things would happen as well. We would clean things and disinfect them before sending them, touching them with gloves, things like that. But we also, we want to make sure that classrooms are using that as well. So yes, we are working on the protocols for that, but they will be available probably beginning in mid to late September as well.
Excellent. And so we'll be able to send out that information in our follow-up email. And of course, when that comes available, we'll keep an email list. I think another really great question was, what's, I guess, a great app, a great mapping app that is student friendly?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, probably the one many of you use, Google Earth is a great entry level example. Lots of things you can do there as well. ArcGIS Online is actually fairly user friendly. There are some, I'll send the link that was in the presentation to the educator resources link, but many of our teachers work with their K through 12 students to use these basic mapping applications. And if they become a little too complex, that's where we're happy to jump in and assist as well. But there's lots of lessons all the way down to like second grade that are using these really powerful mapping tools to look at data that is either already collected or also data that you all would like to collect as citizen scientists as well.
I love that. Yeah, that was one of our questions about lessons surrounding the bus or lessons surrounding different mapping. So that's great to know that, like you talked about, K through 12 educators and the Florida State standards, next generation standards, and everything.
And
One more
I should
question.
mention too, really quick, Kim,
Yeah,
we also have a set of lesson plans. They're hard to find on our website. They're sort of hidden, but we do have lesson plans that we share with our teachers, especially those that come out of our workshops as well. So we're happy to work with anyone on the call as well with those.
great. We'll definitely send those out, and we're putting everything on our website too. So we'll put that there. I've seen this question, and we'll end on this question because I know we're running out of time, but the goggle rentals, is that just for Orlando, or what's that reach?
Yeah, so we're willing to go basically throughout the entire state. We'll make it work.
Love it. Awesome. Great. Well, we'll wrap that up. Again, if there's any other questions, oh, thank you. Someone asked just to explain the sandbox really quick.
Yeah, so the sandbox. So if anyone wants to Google this on your home computers, if you Google the AR sandbox, you'll see it's literally an actual sandbox, and then above the sandbox, it uses an Xbox Connect and a projector that allows you to project 3D topography and elevation lines. And as students move the actual sand, it changes the projection of the imagery. So it's a really great way to teach elevation and topography. It's certainly probably not the best thing to be doing during COVID-19, but once that passes, it's probably, I think it's surpassed the mini drones as the most popular thing on the tour that we use as well. So I'm happy to send more information and some images of that as well in the links that are provided through the foundation.
That's awesome. Thank you. And are there any requirements for the computers at all, or it's all accessible?
For the mapping applications, or in regards to?
We had a question about Mac requirements. I think that is kind of on the same lines as hardware, software.
Yeah. Yeah, so with ArcGIS Online, ArcGIS Online itself is just a web-based mapping platform, so it works on every platform. There's also a standalone software package called ArcMap and ArcExplorer. Those are a little more specific to non-Mac machines. They can work with a dual hard drive boot for Mac, but from what I've seen from students that have done that, it hasn't worked out so well. So I would recommend the ArcGIS Online web mapping app rather than the standalone software package for Mac users.
Excellent, thank you. And then last question, workshops for high school teachers. I know you mentioned the one 2nd through 8th grade, but what would we recommend for some of the older levels?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you'd like to, if for the high school teachers on here, if you'd like to chat with me, I'm happy to talk more. If there's interest in having a more high school specific workshop, absolutely 100% open to doing that with all of you. So just let me know and we can make it happen. And I should mention as well, it's not that we limit high school teachers from the workshops, it's just many of the lessons we do are much more focused on middle and upper elementary. But definitely for those summer fieldwork experiences, that's open to all levels as well.
Great. And I think just one more, drone model.
Yes, so it depends on what you're looking for. So if you're looking to use something that your principals will allow, which I know is a big deal, that's safe for kids to fly and that can actually be flown indoors, then there are two models that we use. One is the the Parrot Mambo. The unfortunate part about that is it's not really on the market anymore. You can still find them, but they're not actively producing new ones. So it's a couple years old, but it's a really good mini drone, and it's about $50 or so. The ones we've been transitioning to in the last year are the DJI Tellos, Tello. The Tellos are around $100. They offer pretty much the same functionality as the Parrot Mambos. The only big difference is they're still being produced and they're being updated with new firmware and software updates as well. Both of those are really safe, very easy to fly for children. If you're a little more advanced and you want to become more involved in drone mapping, we recommend the DJI Phantom series and also the DJI Mavic Mini and the Mavic Pro series if you have a little bit more money to spend. Those range anywhere from $400 all the way up to about $2,000 depending on the model. And I should mention, for those teachers that would be attending our workshops, the model of drone that we either give away the Mambo or the Mini. Or the Mavic Mini, not the Mavic Mini, apologies, the Tello. For the teachers that would work with us in either our West Coast work and the Smithsonian work with the NSF or our Belize work with the NSF, those teachers would be receiving Mavic Minis and a little higher up model packet to take to their classrooms as well.
Wow, that's really great. This is a new subject I know for me and my coworkers, so we're learning so much and we're really excited to continue this partnership. We'll send your contact information in the follow-up email, as well as some information on our website so teachers can pick your brain if they have any other questions. But with that, thank you so much. This was incredible. I know teachers really got a lot out of it. I know myself, I got a lot out of it, my team, and we're really looking forward to all the connections we can make with the teachers.
Yeah, thank you, Kim. And thank you all again. I know this is a very awkward time of year, right? It's that few weeks right before we all go back to school. So I appreciate all the educators that join us, and know that in addition to being an educator, I'm a parent of 3 very young children. So I recognize how big of a moment this is for us as we all work with youth to inspire them in this new, very difficult experience. So let's go into this school year excited and inspired with some of the challenges that we all know we can overcome. So thank you all for everything that you do, and thank you for taking the time to listen to our work.
Excellent, thank you. And we will see our teachers at 1 p.m. for Croc Talk, Conservation of the American Crocodile at the FPNL Turkey Point Clean Energy Center. So Susan just dropped the registration there if you haven't signed up already. And thank you guys. Have a great lunch, get some food, get some more coffee, and we'll see you at 1. Thanks, Tim. Have a great afternoon.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.